Good morning, guys. Welcome to the Haven. We are here with Mr. Linear for an AMA with the opMoon team. Just a quick reminder, everything you hear on this recording is not financial advice. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only. And always do your own research. Linear, tell us what you got going on today, man.
Hey guys, thank you for having me here today. I'm really happy to be speaking with your community and to present our project, opMoon, which is based on the layer 2 blockchain from Binance that was just announced a few days ago called opBNB, based on the Optimism stack. So like we've already seen the Optimism chain launching, a year ago almost now, or even more actually. So now Binance is working on the same stack, which brings, a lot of improvements to their chain, mainly the transactions being faster, cheaper, and take less time to confirm. So it's an interesting time, and we decided with our project to say, hey, let's try to, create something before, all the mainstream media starts noticing the chain and you maybe get all the big projects on it. And I decided to launch this project called opMoon on the chain. It's the first reflection token on the chain that's live. It's the biggest token right now in terms of market capitalization, if you exclude DEX tokens on the chain. And I'm just excited to tell you more about the project.
We are excited to have you here, my man. I'm actually just joining your TG and digging a little bit more into this than what I had a chance to do yesterday. But why don't you give me a basic rundown of what the project's designed to solve in the space?
Okay, so opMoon is a reflection token. You've probably all already heard of opMoon, which was quite a successful project. I mean, a super successful project on Ethereum, which kind of, reflection tokens, of course, existed already before, but opMoon sort of brought it back after, we had SafeMoon on Binance Smart Chain a long time ago. So what the project is basically it has an automated mechanism in it to reward token holders, right? So generally, if you just have a normal token and people buy and sell, the holders are never really rewarded, right? Of course, they can be rewarded if they hold the token and maybe, in the future they can sell it and make a profit. But with the reflections, automated reflections in the token contract, you're basically always rewarded for being a holder. So every time someone buys or sells the tokens, you will see your balance in your wallet automatically increase. And this is sort of a mechanism, right, to help support, the token and to make sure that you stick around longer than you might otherwise. And that's the token itself is based on the code from opMoon. And as I've mentioned, it's the first project that does the same thing on opBNB. But we're not only focusing on the token itself, we're trying to create utility for the chain because it is so new. You would maybe think, okay, all of these other projects or some kind of tools that exist on Ethereum, for example, you would already have them on this chain like liquidity lockers, or maybe you want to do some vesting, or maybe you even want to check if the token is safe, if it's not a honeypot or whatever. You can't do that right now on opBNB. So we are creating a set of tools that investors will be able to use in order to check all of these things that you take for granted on other chains. So that's a quick rundown of the project and what we're trying to build.
I mean, that's a bold position to put yourself in, man. As someone who's launched on a new chain, it is a very interesting time. So, okay, I'm looking at everything right now. I'm looking at your guys' chart, which I will link for everybody in 1 second. But I noticed the main swap is binary swap right now. And
correct.
So, all right, let's talk about the DEXs and what you guys plan for that. So, like on every new chain that I'm a part of, it releases with one DEX, and then 2 weeks later that DEX is gone and everyone's migrated to the next one, and so on and so forth. I also see your chart's a little bit older than I previously before this AMA. So tell me, what is your plan for if binary swap doesn't have longevity, if something else becomes the meta on the chain, and have you already run any issues with something like that so far?
Yeah, so that's a great question, actually. This has been something that I've been personally thinking about how, we are going to proceed in the future if maybe the landscape changes a bit. In any case, we launched actually on August 30th, which means we were live on the chain before even the official announcement from Binance came out, because of course they release the chain, they test a few things on it, and you're maybe even allowed to deploy tokens already on it. So that was our strategy, right? To get in early. And of course, if you're trying to be early, you most of the time don't really have a choice maybe to list on a premier DEX like PancakeSwap, which I believe sooner or later will arrive on the chain because it's basically one of Binance's flagship projects, right? But when we launched, we just had one option basically, which was a binary swap, which thankfully, in this last 2 weeks has grown to be the biggest DEX by volume and by total value locked so far. So we're not losing out, in terms of maybe being on the DEX, which, fades away, like you've mentioned. But for now, it is holding its, number one position on the chain. Although I do agree with you, with time passing by and this bigger DEX is coming along, probably PancakeSwap. There's also apeswap on Binance Smart Chain, which is quite big, which I believe will migrate over or will bridge over to opBNB. So our plan, is to follow closely how things develop, how the total value locked will change on all the different DEXs. And if needed, of course, we do have a plan set, or at least we have it in theory, on how we could move over our liquidity to, let's say, PancakeSwap if it does decide to launch on the chain.
Okay. And is this the first DEX that's hit the chain? Like, is binary swap the OG?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Awesome. What about the liquidity lockers? What are you using for that?
So actually, when we launched the project again, there was no liquidity lockers. That's also one of the issues that I've. Yeah, it's been crazy, since the launch until now. It's really a challenge. Maybe we'll get into that a bit later. Building on a new chain and trying to make things, as transparent as possible, because of course not everyone can read a block explorer or can read Solidity code in order to check what you're claiming, right? So we needed to actually deploy our own solution. So right now our liquidity is locked in a contract on which is deployed on the blockchain, of course, and it is locked for 3 months. The duration was set to 3 months in order for us to be able to perhaps migrate if needed. Otherwise, we are working on our own suite of tools. We call it OP tools, which will allow any project to lock liquidity on the chain, and we will have it audited and so on. So it's comparable to something like Team Finance that you would maybe find on other chains, or Unicrypt, right, which are the most famous ones.
Okay, well, I think that kind of beautifully segues into, let's give you the roadmap. So you have plans for all these utilities. What have you guys done so far? And what do you guys have coming up? First, second, all that fun stuff.
So for the last 2 weeks, we've of course been focusing on actually building the community. When you launch a token on, let's say, something like Ethereum or maybe Arbitrum or any other chain that has a lot of volume, right? You kind of expect the community, at least at the start, to build itself. Because when you deploy the project, or maybe when you deploy liquidity, you'll always have someone scanning the Explorer, or they will be listening, to events on the blockchain to see new projects. And sort of, the first few members that come in will maybe invite someone else, and it starts growing on its own. Again, coming from a new layer 2 chain, that was not necessarily the case, because we had a super small community at the start, and we were really thinking, how can we reach a bigger audience when the chain only has, like 200, 300K volume daily, right? Total volume. So that's been our focus so far. We've worked with a lot of different influencers. We've had a lot of AMAs. We've been trying, to diversify where we're putting our marketing funds in to see what works. And I would say it was very successful. We have over 1,000 members in our Telegram now. We have actually over 650 token holders now, which is nice to see on a new chain. Yeah, that's almost 10% of all active addresses on the chain, which is funny to say, but yeah, it's been a challenge, but I think we're doing well so far. And regarding the future roadmap, like you've asked, the first step is this OP Tools website, or let's call it utility website, that will allow project teams as well as us to lock our liquidity transparently. There will be also token lockers for project teams to use. we will also enable projects to do like token vestings and things like that. And then we intend to continue with building our own Telegram bots, which specifically focus on the opBNB chain. Things like buy bots, or maybe even some kind of bots that will allow you to trade or track your portfolio on the chain. Those are the things we're working on right now.
Okay, and I mean, I wouldn't usually ask this of a team, but because it's a new chain, and I don't think a lot of people understand why opBNB was released, right? So why don't you tell us why you guys feel Binance decided to make this move and move to a lower gas chain on the lowest gas chain EVM out there? What attracted you guys to opBNB? What is exciting about it for the future?
So personally, for me, I actually joined Binance Smart Chain when it was in its complete first steps. I still remember opening up the PancakeSwap website when it still had the old interface with all the pictures of the different foods or fruits or whatever it was exactly, and then farming on it. So.
Oh, I remember, yeah.
Yeah. That was, the good old days. So, I always had this kind of also personal attachment to it, let's say. Even working as a freelance developer in the past, I've worked with several Binance Smart Chain projects, which, I was always keeping up with it, or, looking at the news and what's going on. So when I saw their announcement that they will actually be releasing their own layer 2, I saw this as an opportunity, for a serious project to have a head start, maybe perhaps from other things that will launch on the chain in a month, or who knows, once it really starts to ramp up. And that's the main reason why we decided to go over. Of course, you have all of these other advantages, like you said, I mean, even cheaper, even faster, and so on. But of course, nowadays you have chains like Arbitrum, you have Base Chain, and so on, which offer the same things, right? Before, when Binance Smart Chain launched, it was actually maybe the only alternative to Ethereum, right? But
that's the weird part.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to jump in. I'm actually looking at Binance's white paper right now for opBNB. Just because I told you when it came out, I was really excited. Just because, I was never an Ethereum maxi. I never started off with Ethereum, right? I started off with BNB when BNB came out, and I remember them announcing a few network upgrades that were coming down the road, and I was really excited about it. opBNB came out, and I couldn't really figure out what the value added was. Right? I'm not smart enough to understand queuing and ZK rollups and things along those lines, at least what they mean in the code. And it does seem like that's roughly what this is about. But I want to support Binance. I really want to. I want to see the ecosystem go far. I like them more than Ethereum, but I'm mainly these days. So what I'm looking at is it seems to be designed for bundled transactions and gaming, right? At least that's what a lot of people's comments on the subject are. That you can, in a very ZK rollup way, conduct 100 transactions at the same gas fee without causing a spike. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. And I agree with you that was mostly what they were focusing on leading up to the official chain. But now I'm surprised. For us, of course, that's a super positive thing. But if you, for example, go on BNB Chain's account on Twitter or X, you can actually see that they've changed their official link now to point to opBNB. So, I'm not 100% sure what their goal is or what their end game, here is for the chain itself. But I do feel like the focus will be on making opBNB the main chain, at least in my opinion. Why they are doing that exactly, you can always just do some kind of, reflections, or maybe you can think about what's their true incentive behind it. I do think BSC itself has maybe lost, it's still the second biggest chain by volume, right? So, it's not in any case losing its, foot, or it's not losing its position it has in the ecosystem. But I do think perhaps this new chain gives Binance a chance to, really push their position, or BNB's position as a coin, to put it in the forefront again. I think what they are trying to do is to get back a bit of that glory they had back in the days. And this chain is the perfect opportunity for them to do that.
No, yeah, I didn't make the rundown of that meant to be disparaging towards your project. Like, I actually think the position you're putting yourself in is extremely smart. There's always one winner on chains, right? On new chains. And if you can be the biggest and baddest and provide those utilities, you're going to suck up all the volume off of that chain, which is awesome. I'm so concerned for Binance's future. Like, and that's purely because my government is garbage when it comes to dealing with them. Like, they have superior technology, they have more innovation than anyone in the space, and SEC just keeps on going after them, man. It's not fair game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I think one of the reasons why perhaps, when we saw maybe base chain launch or when we saw Arbitrum launch, they had, this really, it was quite a monumental moment, right? When it went live, immediately the activity, spiked up like crazy. With opBNB, we haven't really seen that so far. The buildup is sort of slow, and, there are new users to the chain. There is liquidity moving to the chain, but it's not something you would clearly say, and go like, wow, this is going to explode tomorrow. Maybe part of that reason is because of Binance's situation right now, specifically maybe with BNB. Investors could be a bit afraid to start moving to the new chain. So we can feel it, as a project as well, or even me personally. I did expect maybe things to start moving faster. But we are hopeful, like you said, I also believe in Binance myself. I've been using them for a very long time. I'm not from the US, so from the EU, it's not as strict for us, right? Or we haven't really seen all of this sanctions that were against them, come into effect because we're not maybe limited from using it. But right. I can see that becoming a problem. Yeah, definitely.
I don't see it being a problem long term. I think innovation always wins out, but like, the amount of BNB I was holding versus the amount of BNB I'm holding now, it depresses me every day. Like, that is what it is. Okay, so a few more questions for you guys. How large is your team?
So I'm the lead developer, and I'm also the project founder because of the fact that it was, it started out as a very small project. Basically, when I deployed liquidity on the chain, it was like a market cap of $2,000 because I had no expectations as to what kind of point we're going to come. We're right now at about 230,000 market cap, and our ATH was almost $1 million. So you can imagine that it's been quite chaotic to manage everything. We have grown as a team. We have approximately 5 active team members at this moment. But it is me that's managing the project itself, and that is doing things like or organizing marketing. But we have a lot of helpful people from the community as well, looking after us. We have a few people that have moved over from Ethereum, which are acting as our advisors, which is super helpful for us. But we are a relatively small team. There's no. I don't want to hide, and say, wow, we are, 5 active developers working on it. We're still a relatively small team, but we have experience and we know what we're doing. So, we're standing comfortable where we are now.
Okay. I'm looking at the amount of work that you guys have put into your website right now, and you guys obviously have some good people working with you. Okay, so you played 9.1 grand in reflections. You've burnt 17,000 of supply. Your liquidity is sitting at 20% here. How did you guys garner all this money? What was the volume on this project?
The volume on this project, I think we've been constantly growing. If you look at the chart, you can see, of course, we had sort of like a peak, and we had growth, which was nonstop. And in any case, at one moment, early buyers and everyone will kind of reset the chart. It happens to every project. We can't just keep on reaching higher price levels. We do need that consolidation period where we are right now. Our volume has been stable, I would say, around 50K for the last few days. If you look at last 24 hours, it did decrease a little bit, but the entire chain's activity has gone down in the last 24 hours. So it's not just our project that's, sort of like an outlier. But we have grown basically, from zero or from 2K market cap to where we are now, just by having a steady growth in volume and user base in this 2 weeks or 3 weeks now.
And you're doing it with 20% liquidity. That is something I don't see very often on Ethereum or BNB these days. Okay, so now the tough question. Assuming you're in this for the long haul and you're going to be around for a long time, I mean, volume on new chains dies off, right? And it goes through, like you just said, like kind of a consolidation period where like the hype's over, you're starting to get down to your core traders, the people that really believe. And then I don't know if anyone here remembers like a coin like Croshi or I recently called Bone on Shibarium, things like that. The good teams stick around, usually make it. Do you guys have the funds to continue development in the slow times?
Again, great question. We've put a lot of thought into it as to how we're going to proceed. We think that we're still early on the chain. I don't think, the activity that we're seeing on the chain now is going to stay for long. I do think sooner or later Binance or BNB Chain's team will probably focus more on marketing the chain and bringing new users over. We still don't even have, for example, PancakeSwap live on the chain, which I'm sure will bring even more liquidity, even more volume. So I'm looking, that's the first thing we're looking at is when we see this project coming over, what will it do to the volume? What will it do, to the fees that we're collecting from volume and so on? But regarding the development, we're sitting in a good spot because, like I've mentioned, personally, I'm the developer of the project, and we have another freelance developer working for us, which is on a long-term contract. And the things that we did put in a roadmap, we're 100% sure that we can complete it. Of course, we would like to have maybe even bigger plans, but until the chain is in the position where it is now, we're a bit more cautious. We don't want to promise something to our community. Then, 1 month later we say, we're sorry, no, but we can't fund it. But we are, we have a solid position, even when it comes to funds and how much money we have for the development and for the community.
Okay, that's great. I mean, it's going to be, you're not wrong, right? Like, as it gets adopted, but we can't control when Binance decides to make moves or anything like that. I am really impressed they added opBNB to their official Twitter, though. At least that means they're going to be pushing and growing for quite some time.
Yeah, you do see it, right? I looked today and I actually saw they changed the website URL, yeah.
No, I just took your word for it. Let me look it up right now. Give me 1 sec.
If you go on BNB chain, it should be pointing to opBNB now.
Let's pull up that BNB chat. Oh yeah, and I'll link this to you guys in the voice chat right now, so you can take a look, and I'll give you the chart. Sorry, I have not added that to there. opBNBchain.org, baby. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And they changed the location from the moon to Mars. That's pretty cool.
I didn't see that one.
I like that. All right, let me add this on for our wonderful Haven here. You guys look at the most recent post. I'm adding on the Twitter, and I'm adding on the opMoon chart as well. DexScreener does great at getting these new chains on their charting system quickly.
Even 2 weeks ago when we launched it, we immediately had support from DexScreener, which was great. I mean, it's one of the biggest tools, right? So we were happy to see that we can share a normal chart for people to look at. Otherwise, it would have been even more difficult at the launch.
Yeah, man. It's not like the old days, if you remember. Like, it used to take a lot more than that to get charting on these new chains. And now, yeah, DexScreener can throw it up in a few hours. Okay.
I remember being angry when Binance Smart Chain started to take off and Dex Tools was still only on Ethereum, even though Binance Smart Chain was live for a few months already, and they refused to add it. So then you had all PooChain, come up, right? Yeah, PooCoin, sorry, which was, it was interesting back in the days, yeah.
I remember being so used to trading on PooCoin that I hated going to Dex Tools because the UI was so much more advanced. It just felt like it was unnecessary to me. And like, that's where I started as a trader, right? I was on KuCoin all the time. Now it looks like a child's website compared to what we use.
It is true. I used it a lot as well, so I know what you're talking about.
My bad. All right. Tell us a little bit about your experience in the space. So what have you guys done before this? You and your team members? Yeah, would love to hear about it.
So I've been in crypto since late 2018. We initially started with also a mining farm from where I'm from. So, we had humble beginnings as farmers or as miners for Ethereum and Bitcoin. So, goes back in the days. And of course, we're from EU, right? So electricity costs were never super cheap, but until, the early days, it was always possible to get profits and work from that. But I come from a programming background. So when we started doing that, I started to learn about Ethereum, about the whole DeFi sphere on the chain itself. And I started learning Solidity. So since 2019, I've been working as a freelance developer for several projects, really a lot. On all the different chains. Like I've mentioned, we worked with projects on Ethereum. We worked with projects on Binance Smart Chain. Perhaps the one worth mentioning as a reference is, I don't know if any of you know the project called Wall Street Games. WSG is the ticker on Binance Smart Chain, which was quite a successful project. It's sort of like this play-to-earn game. Which is, of course, not in the same place as it was 2 years ago, but I worked as a freelance developer for that project, which was super interesting to work on. It had a peak market cap of $80 million, so super proud about that. And since then, like I said, I've been a part of different project teams working on different ideas. I always like a challenge, to try to build something new. So the experience is definitely there, but from a management point of view, this is my first personal project, that I'm working on myself. So it's also nice to do that and see, what does it mean making a project from a different point of view or from just a different position. Yeah.
I mean, don't be shy. Tell like, what have you built for other projects, or what have you done for in the space?
You mean to list a few more projects? It's okay to mention them, or?
Yeah, you can mention whatever you want, man. We want to know your experience.
Okay, yeah, I didn't want to maybe start talking about too much about other projects, but maybe from back in the days, if there are some people who were active on Ethereum, I was the lead developer for Vox Finance, which was in 2019 on Ethereum. It was one of the first yield farming projects that appeared on the chain. That was also super fun times. We worked also for a few projects that were more recent. There was the guest list on Ethereum, which was a launchpad platform. But again, this was solely, from as a development point of view. It was not as managing the projects. What else was there? There were a few meme coins. I don't think it's worth mentioning the names themselves because I don't think any of them were super successful as, Pepe or something like that. But yeah, these two projects is what I would say, is probably what's worth mentioning or what you can really maybe identify with if you look at the charts or if you look at the projects themselves.
That is awesome. I remember Vox Finance. I can't say I know the other ones. But Vox was like one of the big things going on when I entered the space that I didn't understand.
So then it's perfect that I mentioned it because, like I said, it was from 2019. That's really a long time ago now. I can't even believe it when I'm saying now. It was the first project that I worked on as a developer. And it's super nice to hear that you actually remember the name. That makes me, happy to see someone still remember it.
It wasn't just around. I came in 2020, so it had to have been around for a while. It didn't just go anywhere, right?
It was. Yeah. We were quite successful for around, I would say, almost 8 months. Then sort of, in crypto, it's always difficult to keep the same meta going on, with us being a farming token. Then after some time, farming was not so interesting anymore. But it's not just possible to change a project in any case, you can't change its code. It's immutable, right? So, right. The hype around that sort of died off. But while we were around, it was a super fun ride. It was really nice to, have such an entry into DeFi and to get to know all the people on the chain. So yeah, it was super nice now to work on that.
Yeah, man, I'd love to see guys that have been around this long that are contributing to the space. That's what DeFi needs. Okay, let me look at my list here. Had a few just smaller questions for you guys. Okay, so I see 5 indicators of taxes on your website. That means the token has 5% tax that in and out.
Correct. So as I mentioned, the contract itself is based on opMoon, which also had the same 5% tax structure. So we decided not to change it because of the fact that we did see the success they had, and we kind of followed with the same idea with a 5% tax on buys and sells, and that is split equally between marketing, reflections, automatic liquidity, burns, and I'm missing one, which is buybacks as well. So those each one of those receive 1% of each transaction.
Got it. So you have the 1% burn and then the 1% buyback. What do you guys do with the 1% of the token supply that is bought back, not burned?
We actually burn it as well. So in the end, the net effect is 2%, but we sort of try to time the buybacks when dips happen so that we can immediately support the chart with the funds we have ready. But after we do the buyback, we immediately burn the tokens because we definitely think at this moment when the project is still so young, it's the best opportunity to perhaps collect a bigger percentage of the supply and burn it, because later on, if the project does start to fly or to really reach bigger market caps, the supply which is burned is never tradable again. So that's why we're focusing on it.
Yeah, it becomes deflationary over time too. That's good for holders as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, back to your documents here. Okay, so to anyone who's new and hasn't traded on opBNB, is it on Chainlist yet? Do you know that?
The chain is already on Chainlist. Yes, you can connect with MetaMask, for example, and add the network using Chainlist. So that's nice to see. It's much easier for people to access it now. I would say, however, it is still a bit challenging for users to bridge to the chain, because especially if you're coming from... Go ahead.
No, please. I see that I was just looking. It says that there's 3 available ones. Do we know if the other 2 are actually legitimate or if we should just be using the Binance one?
The official Binance chain is definitely the one that is, most widely used, and is the one that we would recommend. It basically takes only a few seconds to get your BNB tokens on opBNB chain. So I don't even see a reason why you wouldn't use.
Oh, you with me?
Yeah, I am with you again. Something happened for a second there.
No, if you wouldn't mind just repeating that, you wouldn't see why you wouldn't use it, then it went blank.
So I don't see, why people wouldn't use the official bridge, because, of course, it is the most trusted one. It's from Binance. I mean, for me, it's clear that's the one you should use. But there are 2 third-party bridges available right now. One of them is from Orbiter, which is, a big bridge, and I think is 100, or I wouldn't say 100, but let's say 99.9% trusted in the space, and that you can use to bridge over to opBNB as well. And then there is Rhino as well, which personally I haven't used yet, but I have heard good things about. And so far, no one has had any kind of issues with both of these chains, because they do allow you faster withdrawals from opBNB to Binance Smart Chain if for whatever reason you need to move funds off. I don't suggest you do that, right? But if you do need to, you can use those two bridges to bridge off the chain.
And I don't know if this is opBNB or one of the other chains I've used recently, but is there the 24-hour hold on the funds on the bridge?
if you use the official bridge or any of the third-party bridges to bridge to the chain, you have no locking periods. So you can initiate a withdrawal immediately. The only thing, like with any layer 2, it was the same thing with Arbitrum and then Base at the start. You need to wait a 7-day period in order for your funds to come back on the layer 1. So in this case, on Binance Smart Chain, there is like a 7-day withdrawal period. Which if you don't want to wait so long, you have the possibility of using these other 2 bridges that we've mentioned before. But of course, liquidity there is limited. You can't bridge off, I don't know, probably 1,000 BNB. It's not something you can bridge off using third-party bridges, but you just need to accept this 7-day withdrawal period from the official bridge. Gotcha,
my man. All right. Okay, I see a lot of people in the chat are asking to ask questions. Before we jump to them, is there anything else that you feel like I didn't cover that you just want us to know before we get to the community?
I think we've covered really a lot of important things, and really good questions from your side brought up other topics that perhaps we wouldn't have gone through. But maybe the only thing that comes to my mind at this moment is to perhaps tell the users that if you do want to, for example, buy any kind of tokens or anything on opBNB, for now you are obliged to bridge from Binance Smart Chain to opBNB. So, for example, you cannot go directly from Ethereum to opBNB. We're still waiting for third-party bridges that support that. So it does take a bit more work to get your funds on the chain, especially if perhaps it's the first time you're doing something like that. But if you do need any kind of help, we have a lot of helpful guides already written up with pictures and so on that you can use to bridge over to the chain if you're interested. So, and if you need any kind of help, we'll always ready to give you answers in our community.
Oh, man, I'm trying to help out as we go here. I'm giving you guys the ability to add it to MetaMask, the bridge, the chart. All that stuff is now on the most recent post as well. I personally use the MetaMask, the Binance bridge. I've been burned a few times by some ones that come and go, so I would always suggest using the official one. Okay, guys, let's move on to your questions now then. Who should we start with? Dumbledore, I'll let you choose.
Here we got, let's take the Favor. I'm going to answer you just because you just won one of our 2-year contests. So.
We do love Favor very much. She's been around for the whole channel.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, buddy. How are you?
I'm good, actually. Happy anniversary of the channel. So, my question for the team is, this chain is a new chain, and we've seen so many chains rise and they kind of go down again. And I don't know what plans this project have. Is it a long-term project, or you just think to do something short? And if it's a long-term project, what is the guarantee that this chain, the developers of this chain, will continue to build? Did you do all that in-depth research before launching your project on this chain? That's my question for you. Thank you very much.
Solid question, Favor. Lanier, what you got?
So I think the space has gotten a lot more saturated than it was before. We have a lot of successful layer 2 chains, like we've mentioned Arbitrum, we've mentioned Optimism, we've mentioned Base Chain. I do believe, however, that with Binance being the actual, or BNB chain being the actual developers before the chain, it's probably the team that's, in my opinion, done the most for the space, the team which has the most experience from all of them. And I think with someone like Binance supporting opBNB, we are bound, to have long-term success. I think we still have so many projects that you all love and use on Binance Smart Chain that will come over to opBNB. And once we see, that main hype coming to the chain, I don't think it's going to be the type of chain that will disappear after a short time, like maybe, what comes to mind is Doge chain, or we had a lot of, these smaller chains popping up for some time. But I do think opBNB will be here for the long term. And us as a project, like I said, we're working on utility. We're working on building tools that will be that everyone will be able to use from day 1 to day 3,000 on the chain. So we are definitely sticking around for long term, and I believe that together with opBNB, we definitely have a future, and I don't think we'll disappear anytime soon.
That's very impressive. Thank you so much for the answer. Thank you, Achilles, for the opportunity.
Thanks, Mavor. Thanks for being here. All right, guys. Who else wants to go next? I mean, if I could just comment really quick, right? Like, obviously, there's no guarantees in crypto, but if you see someone as large as Binance attempting to make something, attempting to push something, it's probably going to do a lot better than something shitty like Shibarium. No offense to all our Shibarium holders. I'm still holding like 3 coins, but like, what value did Shiba bring to the community? Just another EVM that is based on their fucking meme coin. opBNB, if you guys look into it, does seem to have a lot of positive long-term aspects to it. So I like that. I'm invested. Okay, next question. Dumbledore, you pick them.
Oh, man.
What's that?
I said, Rayhan, you're up, my man. You're here.
Rayhan.
Can you hear me?
Rayhan, we can hear you, buddy. How are you? Oh, we could hear you. I think
Keep driving, Rayhan. You'll see the light soon.
Okay,
all right, Rayhan, come right back to you. Raise your hand when you're in a better spot. Let's go to Another Love. I've never heard from you before. So. Another Love, you're live. Another Love. I'll give you another 3 seconds, and then we're gonna go back to I think Victor. All right, Another Love. If you got a question, buddy, you can raise your hand next time. Oh,
Yeah.
Here you are.
Hello.
there he
Can you
is.
hear me, guys?
We can hear you, brother. What's going on?
I'm good, bro. This is a nice project, I must say. So, please, my question is really, I want to ask, do you guys have a kind of a customer support in which your investors can, whenever they come across any glitches or any problem on your sites, like they can actually, you understand, like they can actually lay a complaint and then they will get a swift response immediately? And also, are you guys planning to queue in maybe an app soon for ease? Because you agree with me that apps actually help projects to spread wide and far. You get my question?
Yes.
All right.
So in terms of your first question, we, as one of the first projects on opBNB, I think it's also very important to have guides for people who want to join, to actually start using the chain, not only buying our token, but to actually, start using the chain itself and to know how to bridge to it and what do they need to do in their wallet, like what do they need to set up in their MetaMask or if they're using Trust Wallet and so on. So we do provide, yes, first of all, guides for all of these questions. We have a very supportive team of community members who have been using the chain for a long time. We have a few moderators which are really good at answering questions because they are also, personally invested in the project. That's always something that I think is smart to do, that if you actually have moderators in your chat which are supposed to help people and answer their questions, they do need to know the project, they need to use it, they need to be, acquainted with all of the things you need to do in order to buy the tokens. So we have really a great team that can, I think, answer any kind of question you have for the chain. I'm really proud of that as well. And if it's something more difficult, then I can always come in, or we have, like I mentioned, some community members which are experts on the chain come in and answer. So we are a very active community and we are always happy to help. And regarding your second question, I sort of lost my train of thought. Could you repeat your second question again, please?
Okay, I was talking about apps application.
Yes, I remember now. Thank you. So for now, until we are basically just a token, right, deployed on the chain, we cannot create an app at this moment. Of course, we have our website, which is, I think, quite nice, in my opinion. I think it's very usable. It's very, easy to read information that you need from it. It's responsive. You can access it from any kind of device, whether it be mobile, tablet, or desktop. So that's something we really focus on to make the user experience great. And with our roadmap, we do intend to build, like I've mentioned, utility tools, so liquidity lockers. And we will be working on, making it as a standalone application that you will be, again, able to use from any kind of device. And if users have any kind of problems or anything like that, we will have a channel where they will be able to report things, and we'll have someone answer to them, swiftly or, as fast as possible. We are working on that, yes.
That's great.
Thank you very much for those great answers. Thank you, Achilles, for the opportunity to.
Thank you for your question, man. I haven't seen you before. Welcome. All right.
Thank you.
Let's see. I saw someone that I had never seen before. AA. Why don't we jump to you?
AA. He comes from our community, I think.
No way. I was wondering, he's not from the Haven. Hey, talk to us, my man.
Hey, greeting, lads. How are you?
Good, my man. Good to have you. How's it going?
All good. It's Pingu here. This is an alt account of mine, a friend's account. So Liner probably knows me. So first, before I put some thoughts out. First, I would like to say my utmost respect to the dev. I've been an Ethereum trader for 3 years. I've been in every new chain out there. Like, the work this guy has put in is really, really amazing for me. That's why I still support him. And I believe this project is going to do really good.
Dude, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, please go. Tell me.
Well, I mean, anyone who follows this channel, usually DC runs our AMAs. I haven't done one of these in a long time. As a Binance Maxi, I came on just so I could see what these guys were about. And I gotta say, I'm fairly impressed. I have personally chosen to invest in this project, but that is, of course, up to our individual listeners to follow suit.
Yeah, sure, man. And except this project, what I really like about opBNB is that I see really good developers coming up. It's not this JIT chain. It's not a JIT chain no more. You have real people that work 6 years on Solidity, and they're bringing up their projects here. That says something for me, because infrastructure is really important. As a dev myself, for me, that's a real win. Now, aside of that, I want to say some thoughts regarding BNB and opBNB, because it's not so hard for money to come in this chain, BNB, at the first, they did a fork of Ethereum in a way, because, of course, people wanted lower gas fees. They needed more infrastructure and an easier way to bridge their funds and withdraw and put money in it. So nowadays, we have the layer 2 era, let's say. So what more logical than BNB doing an opBNB, a layer 2 solution that's going to help them scale? Because right now, the infrastructure of BNB cannot be scaled in a way like Optimism does. That's why they use the op stack. So for me, it's a natural way of going. I don't see it as an exclamation mark. It's something that I think everyone was waiting for. Now, regarding why the money hasn't flowed in, as all of us were expecting, I think it's because of the general market. It doesn't have to do with Binance themselves. I mean, if you see ETH is really bleeding out right now, any trader you're going to talk to, he's going to tell you they're jitting for 0.1 ETH profit. Base had their really lucky streak, and the lucky streak they got wasn't from their infrastructure, but was from the public perception of their CEO that went out on this kind of AMA, let's say, and he really shitted on the US government. That seemed really good on the Degen side, so they got a lot of hype and they just ride with it. I think opBNB and BNB is going to push it as much as they can. We know the problems they have with liquidation right now, CZ, so I think it's his best solution on bringing some more value to BNB and supporting it in these dark times, let's say. I don't know, that was all some thoughts I want to put out, and LFG and WAGMI.
Maybe if I could just add one thing, if you don't mind, because AA brought up an important point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think because going back to Binance Smart Chain, right? The biggest advantage it had compared to Ethereum was, of course, the fact that transaction fees were much, much, much lower. I mean, incomparable, right? And I think one of the reasons why we perhaps haven't seen so much movement on OpenBNB so far is not only the general market itself, but it's also the fact that with gas fees being how they are on Ethereum right now, I mean, it's not cheap, right? You're still going to pay $5 to $10 or maybe $15 to do a transaction, but at least it's not, $300. And I think if we start to see more activity on Ethereum itself, we will see more activity on layer 2s. And I think that will bring as well attention to OPBNB, because I still think people see it as the biggest competitor to Ethereum, right?
So that was one of my realizations actually just last night. You can ask Dumbledore. Like I always keep very, very little money in my trading wallet, and then I have my bank, and I don't have the two connected in any manner. And I made a mistake trading a coin, and I was low on gas, but I had like 0.02 ETH in my wallet. And then I checked, and gas had spiked to like 110 or something along those lines. And that is the nature of Ethereum. Like, don't get me wrong. I think in the long term, the chain is really working towards figuring that out. But we forget why in the bull run, BNB became so popular, because at one point I paid $455 for a transaction on a messed up contract. Like, that's not something the average trader is capable of doing. That's insanity, man. I paid over 200 or 2 BNB for one transaction fee on ETH. And that's not sustainable. And while volume's low right now, we forget it. But like last night, volume picked up. That's something that keeps me motivated for the future on these layer 2s for sure.
And then you pay $450 for a transaction, and in the end it fails, and you lose all your money, and you need to do it again if you want. Yeah, exactly.
Thank God that one didn't fail. Thank God. But yeah, I mean, anyone who likes to monitor their wallets, if you go to Etherscan or BSC Scan, you can see your gas fees that you've paid. And holy shit, on ETH last year, I mean, that was a decent salary. Like, just in clicking back and forth. On BSC, it was, 1/25th of that. And I traded 20 times more on BSC.
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, gas fees. If you just start to see a bit of activity on Ethereum, I think you immediately figure out why we need solutions like we have with Binance Smart Chain and now OPBNB, because without it, like you've said, people who cannot afford to pay hundreds, which is in any case crazy, right, for transaction fees, you will of course turn towards the solutions which make it possible for you to trade, right?
Indeed. And I guess something I didn't really touch on that you said at the beginning of this AMA is good to talk about. Like, we forget how many utility providers we use on a daily basis. We forget how many things that were brought to BNB chain and Ethereum that weren't around when a lot of us started trading. And to be in a position to be able to do that on a new chain is awesome, especially one that we know is not going to go away, like Quartos per se, or something like that. Like, Binance isn't going to abandon OPBNB. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. All right, let's
completely agree with you.
Good position to be in, my man. Just got to stick with it. All right, let's move on to another question. We've got Victor Mbappe, my man. How are you, Victor? Uh-oh, maybe he's not by his mic. Victor, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can I go on?
Yeah, dude, good to hear you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I don't have much to talk about. I just wanted to say that for developers launching projects in such markets, it takes lots of guts. So I was wondering to ask, what are your plans for multiple revenue streams to keep the project sustainable, considering the fact that you're claiming to involve the community and keep the project for a very long while. So what are your plans for multiple revenue streams? And lastly, I do believe that a paid team is a happy team. So what are your plans to, let's say, keep your pocket full on the long run or pay yourself and the other team members?
Okay, thank you for your two questions. Regarding revenue streams, we are a reflection token, which means, thankfully we're not a project which relies on staking on farming. So we are not introducing, inflation into the token supply or on the market supply. Actually, we have a few deflationary aspects to it with the buyback and burn mechanism. So that already helps a lot because it doesn't, produce additional sell pressure on the chart. But we do have plans for additional revenue streams. Like I've mentioned, we intend to build a liquidity and token locker that all projects on opBNB will be able to use. So of course, these types of tools charge a small fee. For example, if you want to lock liquidity on something like Unicrypt, you need to pay actually quite a lot. No, I forget how much it is, but maybe even more than $150 in fees. Of course, we are going to be a cheaper alternative to them. But the fees we do collect from the utility tools, we will be allocating. I can't say the exact percentage now, but definitely more than half to support the price of opMoon. So we will be doing even additional buybacks. And further down the line, if these tools really start to get used, we plan to go cross-chain as well. We intend to create sort of like an investment DAO or organization, right? Autonomous organization, which will distribute part of the fees to our token holders as well. So that's long-term thinking, but we have it planned as well. So that's regarding revenue streams. And for payments, of course, a pay team is a happy team. Everyone we're working with has a salary, and we completely understand that community moderators help from community is one thing, and it's another thing to have actual team members working on the project. So we intend to keep compensating everyone for what they do in the project. If we can, of course, we can't promise to pay always if the project itself maybe doesn't have the funds. But so far, we haven't been in a situation like that. And for short term, or at least for several months, we don't think there will be any kind of problems with having a team around the project, without a doubt. So no worries regarding that.
All right, awesome answers. Before I drop the mic, I also wanted to ask quickly regarding let's say projects that would be the first thing to launch on your chain. So what would the whole process be like for those devs seeking to use your chain? What do you consider first? And also, considering the fact that there's lots of rocks and you see prominent in most chains coming out. So what would you do differently that would make investors feel safer on those projects that would be launching on your chain?
I think for developers, it's not that difficult to get started on opBNB with it being EVM compliant, which means that any type of Solidity code that can run on Ethereum, let's say, is 100% compatible and can be deployed on opBNB. So definitely, the ease of access for developers is there. And that's why I think we will see also more projects launching. We will see more tools coming to the chain. We will see more things like maybe, like I've mentioned, Dex Screener, for example, already supports the chain. Dex tools now also supports the chain. So for developers, I think all the necessary tools are already there. There are still things which are missing. Also something that we are building, like, for example, for liquidity locking. I think we've already touched on different points why we believe opBNB will be a better competitor to other layer twos, with it being funded by Binance, funded by a seriously experienced team, and I think that will bring it to a higher position in the market.
All right, perfect answers, man. I wish you best of luck, and thanks, Achilles, once again.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one. You want to go to Dumbledore?
Sorry, yeah, I didn't. Let's unmute Bobby DeWale.
To anyone who's followed this channel, Bobby, I hate your name, but I hope you're a good guy. What's up?
Hello, good afternoon from my end.
What's good, Bobby? Talk to us.
Hello, am I audible?
Pardon?
Hello?
Hello.
I'm audible now?
You are audible, yes.
All right. Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. So my question is there's something you said on the website. You said holders will automatically earn reward as transaction occurs within the ecosystem. So I just want to ask, do you mean transaction within your own project or transaction generally in crypto space?
I'm so sorry. Did anybody else understand that?
I think I did hear his question. Yeah, he's referring if our transaction fees only imply to transactions done with our project, or if it's based on global volume on the chain. If I'm correct, maybe you can help me, Bobby.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, I guess that's a good question for newcomers. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, you're right. For newcomers, it's important to know that any kind of token, right, that launches on any kind of chain, the only things that you can collect fees on is, of course, transactions that happen with the token itself. So you if any project claims, something different, it's usually a red flag, and you need to be careful what you do. But we collect fees on the transactions used that happen with our token. So like we've mentioned, when someone buys our token, transfers it, or when he sells it, that's when we can collect the fees. And these fees are then used to reward token holders, like we said, with reflections. They are used for buybacks, they are burned, or whatever the project decides to do with them. It is based on the actual token and the token's trading volume. Yes.
Excellent, Bobby. I hope that answers your question, and thanks for being here, man. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
all right. Next up,
very much,
you're very welcome, buddy. Let's go on to Moonshine. And dude, I don't want to keep you too much longer. If you're running out of time, you just let us know.
I have a few more minutes, no problem. We can have 2-3 more questions.
Awesome. All right, Moonshine. Great to see you. You are unmuted.
Hello. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Hi, Linnea.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Great presentation so far. And I really read through the white paper, and everything is just, straightforward and very comprehensive. Currently, I'm actually working as a moderator for a reflection token. And, like you guys already discussed so far, so good about the volume, sometimes the ups and downs, sometimes people take out profit and the rest of it. But then there is something I would like to ask. Is that something you are doing to keep, there are people who would hold, because this is a very good project. And even Achilles himself said he's going to ape in, and based on personal preference. And I also feel it's a very great one. So I want to know, is there something you're doing to hold down your diamond holders? Because even when those who take out profits, of course, which is normal, and because of the market, what are streams of rewards you're bringing in, like staking? I know you might not be looking at the part of NFTs, but like having your own staking, having great partnerships, and other things to keep down these diamond holders, because it comes to a point where they start asking, why is the volume so low? What are you doing? And the reasons for all this is due to mismanagement sometimes of the funds, and the project tends to crash. So what are the important things you're doing to keep down your diamond holders. So even when GITS takes out their profits, this project still have a solid market cap. I know it keeps going because of how good it is.
Yeah, thank you for your question. That's, it's a good point that you raise, and I think it's important to bring additional value to holders than just those that are maybe volume based, because like you said, if maybe there is no activity from the market, or if for whatever reason it's a slow day, or people sometimes maybe panic and so on, which can cause sell pressure, or maybe holders who otherwise wouldn't sell the token. But what we've done that no other project on opBNB has done so far is we've actually partnered with Binary Swap, which is the biggest DEX on the chain, for an exclusive liquidity mining pool. So our token holders can actually combine their opMoon tokens with BNB and create liquidity pool tokens. Of course, you should read up on impermanent loss and all of these things that come with farming, with yield farming. But it does create a secondary reward stream for our token holders, where they can receive rewards in not in our native token, right? They receive rewards in the DEX token, which is of course very positive for our token economy, and we are really happy to be able to provide our users with that. And of course, you earn. I mean, the rewards that you earn are definitely something that's interesting to see, and that incentivizes you to do that. In the future, we do plan to work on staking pools as well, although we don't want to introduce that before we are, at a level where I'm personally comfortable to introduce perhaps some additional inflation into the economy. We might not even do it. Perhaps we would again look for a partner in another project, so that we don't, unnecessarily create sell pressure. But we are working on those additional revenue streams for token holders, so that they are more incentivized to hold opMoon.
Okay, very nice answer. Thank you very much. And I wanted to also know how flexible your staking is, because sometimes when the volume is down, a reflection project tends to increase probably the sell tax, just to bring in more reflections for existing holders. So is your tax flexible?
No, our tax is set to 5% on buys, 5% on sells, and the contract is renounced. So there is no way for us to change it, and there is no functionality in the contract which would allow us to even alter that before. So it's a set tax. It's not a flexible tax, and it will remain at the same percentage for as long as the project exists.
Oh, very nice, because most of those reflection token, they don't even tell the holders, and they just tend to increase the sell tax, which is nice. Just a very short question finally about the security. I see you mentioned that you would be using a verifier so that you would not sacrifice the security of the main network. How do you intend to do that? And are you sure this would actually work for the final validation of transactions that will be performed? That's my question.
So actually, I think your question does not imply to our project specifically, because we are just a project which is utilizing the blockchain, the layer 2 chain from Binance. So we are not working as a validator ourselves. There are other validators from the chain itself which work on validating and finalizing transactions. So of course, us as projects, we need to trust the validators that they're doing their job as they should. But I think, again, with Binance being behind the chain, I see absolutely no doubts that it's in their 100% best intention to keep this chain as secure and as trusted as possible, as we've seen with Binance Smart Chain as well. I mean, there have been no problems since the chain launched until now, even though that they work on a different model than maybe Ethereum or all of the other layer 2s that have been deployed since.
Okay, beautiful. I think that was why I got confused because on your website, I saw under the key takeaways, there were 3 points listed, and on the second point, if I should read it out, it says OPBNB network attempts to achieve high throughput without sacrificing security by contracting the main network BSC in brackets for the final validation of transactions performed on its execution layer. And a verifier is used to ensure the integrity of these transactions. And that was basically where my question came from, because I was wondering how you guys intend to go around that. Are you saying
Yes. That's a description of the chain itself that's taken from BNB chain. So that's just the key takeaway of the entire chain and not our project specifically.
Oh, beautiful. Thanks for the clarification. Thank you so much, Linnea. Great project. And thank you so much, Achilles, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Moonshine. Happy to have you, buddy. Okay, do you want to do one more, Linear?
Let's do one more.
Let's do one more. I see Benjamin keeps raising and lowering his hand, so we got some excitement out of this one. Benjamin, go ahead. Benjamin?
Hey, what's up? How's everyone doing?
How good, man? How are you? I like the spirit. What's going on?
I'm doing good. I'm doing cool, man. I'm doing cool. So let me actually move straight forward to my question, because on my way going to the website, I see you guys actually explain a lot of things regarding the buying sectors and the liquidity pool. So I don't think I actually have much to say. So I just want, because you guys have actually been discussing on how you guys are actually planning to get more investors and stuff like that. But you guys didn't actually touch on like the marketing aspect regarding to the non-crypto users, because you attracting more base and new base to the crypto world is actually, according to what you guys are building, I'm actually sure that if you guys bring in more users who are not actually based in the crypto space, it's going to be easier for them to also take part in what you're building. So I want to know, maybe, is there like any plan for you guys to do some kind of marketing to create more awareness outside the crypto world, and to invite new base and new people to come over to see what you guys are doing? Because we're planning on doing something like this, actually going to implement more awareness and to get more users involved. So is there any plan of this? So that's my first question.
Thank you. Yeah. So, of course, we're focusing a lot on marketing. And one of the reasons why we're here in this community today is, of course, to try and reach more users to come to the chain and to our project. So we have a lot of things like this planned going forward. We will, of course, also try some marketing strategies which are maybe not specifically targeted only for crypto users, but, that someone maybe can see, who is maybe not completely technically, aware of everything crypto related and knows how to set up a crypto wallet and so on. But us being a project on opBNB, I do think that it's, not in our best interest to focus on non-crypto users, because I think if you were to explain to someone what they need to do to perhaps, first of all, buy BNB, get it on Binance Smart Chain, then bridging it over to opBNB would probably be a bit too complicated for them to understand, which is, I think, also a problem for any kind of project which is on a layer 2 and so on. But of course, there are solutions for this, like you can maybe enable users to buy using credit cards and so on. But for the moment, that's not our main focus. Right now, we are focusing on marketing to crypto users and to, get people who already understand all of these terms like chains and bridges and so on to come to opMoon and to come to opBNB.
Oh, okay. That's actually fantastic. Finally, because the reason why I want to ask this second question is regarding the bear market situations. You actually see everyone is actually fearing the bear market. Market is not actually stable, and it's not actually a good market for like a BNB project. So why don't you guys? Is there like any plan for you guys actually adding a change or switching your change to like Ethereum network? Because doing this kind of bear market, BNB network is actually something that is not actually stable during this kind of bear market. So is there like any plan on you guys adding the Ethereum network to your project? Because it's actually going to be cool and help mostly Ethereum users, and also concerning the bear market situation.
So I think building in a bear market is, of course, always a challenge, but I do think if you can create a project during the bear market and that you can show that it does intend to stay long term, you're in a perfect position once the market sentiment does change in the end, because of course we will sooner or later have a reversal. We will again, enter a bull market, and when we do, of course, people will be more interested. People will be less afraid maybe to invest into new things. So I don't personally see it as a problem, and I don't think it's necessary for us to maybe go cross-chain and create the same token on Ethereum or something like that. I think our focus should be on making opMoon one of the leading tokens on OPBNB, and then once people start to come to us from Ethereum, from Arbitrum, from Base Chain, or from any other chain, it's important that we're there, that people can see us, that they can understand we are a project that's been working hard for a long time, has been building during the bear market, but we're still there and we're still on top. So I think that's what is gonna be the biggest advantage for us once we see the market turning around.
Okay, that's actually fantastic because most people actually make a complaint, especially most Ethereum users actually make complaint regarding most projects that are actually making use of BNB and saying since the bear market is not good, they're gonna have some dump and stuff like that. So it's no problem. And thanks for the explanation. I'll still wish you guys a good luck. Thanks,
for being here, my man. Thanks for being here. All right, guys. I think that was an awesome AMA. Earlier, before I end the recording, is there anything that you would like to add?
Not anything specifically. I'd like to thank you as well for having us, first of all, for hosting the AMA. It's been great. I really enjoyed it. I'd like to thank everyone who was listening to us here today, anyone who's joined us in the meantime, or even anyone that will join us. We're a small community, but we're all very friendly, and we'd like to have you on board. We'd like to, introduce you to the project itself, maybe to the chain. So if anyone is interested, you can find us using the post, which is in the channel right now. You have all our socials on there. Our token name is opMoon. It's really easy to find. All the information is there. We have a complete white paper. We have a lot of guides already on how you can join us. So just thanks again to all of you, and hope to see you in our community soon.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me a great AMA to host. Like I said, it's a rare thing that I'm on here, man. Happy to have you guys. All right, Dumbledore, you want to kill that recording?